After passing away, people can continue in a virtual world and stay connected via video calls. Stock manager Bei Li, shortly before her passing, turns to a company called Wonderland. Using advanced artificial intelligence, Wonderland allows people to communicate via video calls with their deceased or terminally ill loved ones. The twist? Clients never realize the exact moment when their real life ends and their virtual existence begins. Bei Li knows how hard it will be for her daughter, Jia, to cope with losing her. Determined to stay connected, she decides to join the program to keep communicating with Jia through AI. Her mother, Hua Ran, opposes the idea, but Bei Li manages to convince her that it's the best choice for Jia. In the virtual world, Bei Li chooses to become an archaeologist, a childhood dream she never pursued. This way, she can explain her absence to Jia in a meaningful way. As it turns out, Bei Li is one of thousands of Wonderland clients whose consciousness files are stored in a quirky and expansive virtual system. Each client's life is tailored to their personal wishes or those of their loved ones. Wonderland employees Harry and Hyunsu process incoming client data, preparing everything for Bei Li's transition. Finally, they launch the video feed, showing Bei Li taking her first steps into her new virtual life. Bei Li finds herself at an airport, where a man named Sungjun Soon takes a seat next to her. They strike up a conversation, and Bei Li shares that she's an archaeologist heading out on an extended work trip, leaving her daughter, Jia, in her mother's care. As they part ways, they exchange numbers before Bei Li boards her flight. Later, she arrives in a desert and immediately calls her mother to share her excitement. Hua Ran hesitantly answers the video call, still struggling with the reality that her daughter is no longer alive. She calls Jia to the phone, and the girl reluctantly comes downstairs, her mood indifferent. Bei Li apologizes for not calling sooner and for leaving without notice. To cheer them up, she shows them the camels surrounding her, explaining that she's now working in the desert. She promises to call every day and share something new. The scene shifts to a space station where another Wonderland client, Tae-yo, resides. Early in the morning, he video calls his girlfriend, Jong-in, a flight attendant living an ordinary life on Earth. Tae-yo gently reminds her to wake up, so she doesn't miss her new flight to Barcelona. Later, at the airport, one of Jong-in's colleagues invites her to see a movie over the weekend. She immediately calls Tae-yo to ask if he's okay with her going out with someone else. Tae-yo encourages her and even offers to book the tickets for them, but his confidence wavers when he realizes Jong-in is in a relationship. That evening, Jong-in has dinner while chatting with Tae-yo on a large screen. He serenades her with love songs, keeping the connection alive between their very different worlds. In reality, Tae-yo is in a coma after an accident, and Jong-in often visits him in the hospital. Meanwhile, Harry and Hyunsu continue training Wonderland's AI to ensure their clients behave and speak just like real people. Since Tae-yo is still alive, it's actually Hyunsu, hidden behind Tae-yo's avatar, who communicates with Jong-in. One day, Wonderland employees visit an elderly woman named Jong Ran to set up a virtual version of her late grandson, Jinggu, who is studying in London in the simulated world. When Jong Ran sees her grandson, she bursts into tears. After their conversation, she asks Harry and Hyunsu how to buy him new clothes. They explain it's as simple as a few clicks in the program. After finishing their work, Harry and Hyunsu head to a cafe. During lunch, Harry receives a call from her parents, who are also uploaded into Wonderland. Her mother worries that she's not eating enough and isn't dating anyone. To calm her down, Harry lies, saying she has a boyfriend. Hyunsu decides to play along, greeting her parents and pretending to be her boyfriend. Overjoyed, her parents immediately invite them to dinner. Flustered, Harry ends the call quickly to avoid further questions. As they leave the cafe, they agree that Hyunsu will continue the charade at the dinner. However, Harry warns him not to get any ideas about a real relationship. That evening, Hyunsu visits Harry, and they connect with her parents. Her parents eagerly ask about Hyunsu's life and give their blessing, wishing the couple happiness. Meanwhile, Bei Li remains in constant contact with Jia through video calls. She attends school events virtually, tells bedtime stories, and vividly describes her work in the desert, maintaining her presence in Jia's life as much as possible. One day, Bei Li gets interrupted by work and abruptly ends a call with Jia. Moments later, she freezes as a similar scene from her past resurfaces in her mind. Unaware that she is no longer alive, Bei Li dismisses these flashes as odd memories. Still, guilt nags at her, and she calls Jia back to apologize. Saddened, Jia remarks that her mom has always prioritized work over their conversations. Shocked by her words, Bei Li reassures her daughter that now they can talk anytime. That night, Bei Li struggles to sleep and steps outside to warm herself by the fire. Suddenly, her phone buzzes. It's Sungjun, the man from the airport. He apologizes for the late night call, but Bei Li assures him she was already awake. She confides in him, admitting she feels trapped in an endless dream, constantly haunted by visions of a different version of herself. Brushing off her unease as silly, she tries to change the subject, but Sungjun interrupts with an unsettling question. Does she truly believe her life is real? Confused, Bei Li asks what he means, but Sungjun cryptically replies that her reality is the dream. Thinking he's joking, Bei Li laughs it off, dismissing his words. Meanwhile, Zhang learns that Taeyo's condition has miraculously improved. Overjoyed, she rushes to the hospital to find that he has regained consciousness. The doctor explains that while Taeyo has come out of his coma, his brain injuries may cause difficulties with everyday tasks and spatial awareness. Undeterred, Zhang is simply grateful to have the real Taeyo back. She immediately disables the Wonderland app and dedicates herself to helping Taeyo recover. Over time, she takes him home, where they watch old videos together and begin rebuilding their life, making plans for the future. The next morning, Zhang wakes not to the artificial chime of an app, but to the tender touch of the man she loves, marking a fresh start in their shared reality. Harry and Hyun-soo begin their workday at Wonderland, where they meet Young-sik, a terminally ill man contemplating who he wants to be in his virtual life. He asks if he can explore the AI world to see how it functions, but the staff warns him that if he sees himself from an external perspective, it could cause a system crash. Young-sik then expresses a desire to attend his own funeral, but Harry insists that he should not know about his passing, as it would require restarting his entire virtual life. Despite the risks, Young-sik agrees to the terms and prepares to join Wonderland, though he requests that his AI avatar be made younger. Later, as Hyun-soo works on creating Young-sik's avatar, he looks through photos of his family. One image of a young woman catches his attention. She looks strikingly similar to his mother. He shares his discovery with Harry, who takes a photo of him and compares it with old pictures of Young-sik when he was young. The resemblance is undeniable. Hyun-soo calls his brother, believing he may have found their father, who left them when they were kids, but his brother dismisses it, saying it can't be their father because Young-sik's blood type doesn't match. Hyun-soo shares his confusion with Harry, and she suggests that perhaps he and his brother have different fathers. This thought unsettles him, and he starts to wonder how he can uncover the truth. The two go to a cafe for lunch and unexpectedly run into Jong-ran, the grandmother of Jinggu, a new upload in Wonderland. To pay for the company's services, Jong-ran works as a waitress in addition to her regular job. As Hyun-soo checks the app, he notices that she's been buying Jinggu expensive items. Jong-ran explains that Jinggu is unhappy with the car she bought for him and asks if she should buy a new one. Harry, concerned about her spending, promises to replace the car for free. Grateful, Jong-ran offers them a free meal in return. Later, Hyun-soo decides to talk to Young-sik to confirm if he's really his father, but when he arrives, he finds that he's too late. Soon after, Hyun-soo attends Young-sik's funeral, where, as the man had wished, his AI copy is present. Hyun-soo wants to confess everything to the family, but he hesitates. That evening, he contacts the virtual version of Young-sik but again finds himself unable to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Bei Li calls her mother, asking what souvenir to bring her. She wants to gift her a scarf, but her mother sharply replies that she doesn't need anything. Clearly, Hua Ran has yet to come to terms with the loss of her real daughter, and the words of the virtual copy serve as a painful reminder that she can never truly return or bring her anything. Hua Ran abruptly ends the call with Bei Li and then decides to tell her granddaughter the truth about her mother's departure, deciding to stop using the Wonderland service starting next month. At the same time, in the virtual desert, Bei Li meets Sungjun. They stop at a local cafe, and the girl opens up about her concerns regarding her mother, who she feels is hiding something from her. Bei Li then asks how Sungjun knew where to find her, but he simply says he's worried about her. Surprised, she wonders why a man she barely knows would care about her, but he just laughs. It seems he may have loved her in real life, but Bei Li doesn't realize it. Suddenly, someone calls for Sungjun, but Bei Li doesn't seem to hear it. He says he'll be back in a minute and asks her to wait. It turns out that it's Harry calling him in the real world. Surprisingly, Sungjun, who is completely healthy in the real world, somehow exists in the virtual world as well. Meanwhile, Jong-in wakes up early to find that Tae-yo is already gone. She feels a fever coming on and, struggling to get out of bed, searches for fever-reducing medicine. It's clear that she misses the care that virtual Tae-yo provided, always looking out for her. Unable to find the medicine, Jong-in decides to open the Wonderland app again, and the virtual Tae-yo quickly reminds her where she last left it. She thanks him but disconnects right away, feeling that interacting with the AI copy while the real Tae-yo is alive and well feels wrong. Jong-in falls back asleep and wakes up in the evening to loud music. When she goes into the living room, she finds that Tae-yo has thrown a party and invited complete strangers. Confused, she calls for him and asks what's going on. Tae-yo explains that he reached out to a colleague who is helping him find a job and decided to celebrate by inviting some new people he met that day. Jong-in feels the growing divide between the real and virtual Tae-yo, admitting to herself that he has become a completely different person. She decides to take a walk, and once again, the AI version of Tae-yo calls her. He asks how she's feeling, and she sadly reflects that the real Tae-yo is nothing like the virtual one. Meanwhile, Jia talks to Bei Li, who shares details about her work. The little girl expresses how much she misses her mom and asks her to come back soon. But unexpectedly, Bei Li tells her that she will definitely take her when she gets older. This answer frustrates Hua Ran, who is already upset that Jia is becoming more involved in communication with the AI and ignoring the real world. The woman takes Jia's phone and ends the call, claiming that Jia won't be able to see her mom because she is too busy. The girl grows angry, demanding to see her mom, not understanding how her mother can be so busy if they talk every day. Hua Ran continues to insist that she can't meet her mother and threatens to forbid them from even talking on the phone. Hurt, Jia declares that she will go see her mom anyway and storms off to her room. Later, Bei Li calls her mother again, and Hua Ran asks why she lied to Jia, knowing she will never be able to take her back. Bei Li explains that she said it just to stop Jia from asking to visit her. Hua Ran worries that Jia has stopped interacting with real people because of her constant communication with Bei Li and wants to take her to visit relatives. Bei Li reassures her that she will return soon, and everything will be fine. Frustrated, Hua Ran shouts that she won't be able to return and ends the call, leaving Bei Li confused. She still doesn't understand that her life is just the result of AI programming. At the same time, the real Tae-yo begins to irritate Jiang and more. She shares her concerns with his doctor, but the doctor assures her that the strange behaviors are completely normal and that he will return to normal over time. One morning, Jiang refuses breakfast prepared by Tae-yo and rushes to work. In the elevator, she realizes she's forgotten her phone and quickly heads back. But at that moment, the virtual version of Tae-yo calls her, and Tae-yo notices the missed call. She bursts into the apartment and grabs her phone out of Tae-yo's hands, accusing him of snooping through her things. He asks her what she's hiding from him. Jiang realizes she has hurt him, apologizes, and rushes off to work. On the way, she contacts the AI version of Tae-yo again, and after work, she heads to a club, where she enjoys herself and continues her conversations with the virtual version of Tae-yo. Meanwhile, Harry contacts Jinggu. The young man is waiting to see his grandmother and is about to tell her not to interfere, but Harry informs him that the woman has passed away, and as a result, his virtual life will be suspended. Soon, Hua Ran arrives at the airport with her granddaughter Jia, intending to visit her relatives and begin a quieter life away from the big city. While Hua Ran stops to ask an employee for assistance, Jia sneaks away, hoping to find her mother on her own. Panicked, Hua Ran searches for her granddaughter, and the police join in the search. Shortly after, Bei Li receives a call from Hua Ran, informing her that Jia is missing. Shocked, Bei Li hopes everything will be okay, but suddenly the connection cuts off, and the system displays a message saying that the subscription to the service has expired. Meanwhile, Tae-yo arrives at the airport to meet Jiang and suggests flying together. She refuses, reminding him that he is still unwell. Concerned, Tae-yo asks why she is avoiding him, but they are interrupted by a call from the AI version of Tae-yo. Jiang doesn't answer the call, and Tae-yo assumes she is cheating on him. She then hands him the phone and suggests he answer it himself. Both Tae-yos look at each other in confusion, and Jiang admits to the real Tae-yo that she has missed him dearly. The real Tae-yo doesn't know how to respond, and with tears in his eyes, he walks away, wishing her a safe flight. We return to Bei Li, whose world begins to slowly unravel. She has a strange dream where her real life before entering Wonderland mixes with disturbing fantasies. When she wakes up, she gets into a car, planning to search for Jia, still unaware that this is impossible. Other AI versions of people she works with try to stop her, but she ignores them. Along the way, she notices that she keeps encountering the same people and can't seem to leave the desert. Suddenly, everything around Bei Li starts to burn and explode, but she fearlessly drives right into the epicenter of the catastrophe. She attempts to contact her mother, but no one answers. Meanwhile, in the Wonderland office, Harry and Hyun-soo detect system malfunctions and realize they cannot shut down Bei Li, who is approaching the operating system. Other inhabitants of the virtual world also notice the disruptions in the form of natural disasters, which threaten their existence. To stop Bei Li, a virtual version of Sungjun is sent after her. He manages to catch up to her just in time and pulls her out of the car before a hurricane can take her. He once again tells her that her life is just a dream, and shortly after, the hurricane sweeps them both away. However, Bei Li soon wakes up again, finding herself at the core of the system. Hyun-soo decides to delete all of her data to prevent the destruction of the remaining clients. Harry is concerned that Bei Li may still be needed by her relatives, but the new version of her will be very different from the one they have grown accustomed to. Despite numerous attempts, Bei Li's data cannot be deleted from the system. Hyun-soo believes this is a mistake, but Harry suggests that Bei Li might need something, which is why she is so persistently trying to break out of the virtual world. Harry decides to grant Bei Li full access to Wonderland. The girl suddenly finds herself in the AI version of the airport where Jia went missing, and she sends signals to everyone nearby, hoping someone will help her. One of the people who responds is Tae-yo. He answers the call, and Bei Li asks him to help find her daughter. In that moment, Tae-yo notices Jia exiting the airport building and follows her. The girl almost gets hit by a car, but Tae-yo manages to save her just in time. They return to the airport, and Jia explains that she wanted to fly to her mother, while Taeyo admits that her mother had called him and asked him to wait for her. Soon, Hua Ran finds Jia and thanks Taeyo for his help. She tries to take the girl away, but Jia declares that she won't go anywhere until she meets her mother. The grandmother says that her mother no longer answers, and suggests Jia check it herself. Jia calls her mother, and this time Bei Li answers the call. She says that she is already at the airport, but Jia looks around and can't find her. Gathering her thoughts, Bei Li, who has now realized that she is merely a program created by AI, decides to tell her daughter the truth. She confesses that her real mother is no longer alive. Shocked, Jia remains silent for a moment, but after a few seconds, she asks if she can still continue hearing bedtime stories. Bei Li reassures her, saying that they will continue to talk on the phone, and then asks to speak to Hua Ran. The woman is overcome with emotion, but Bei Li assures her that everything will be alright and asks her to take care of herself. Though it is still difficult for Hua Ran to communicate with the AI version of her daughter, she decides not to cancel her Wonderland subscription. Having achieved her goal, Bei Li regains control of the system from Harry and Hyun-soo, and the virtual world continues to operate as usual. Some time later, Jong-in tells Taeyo why she decided to use the Wonderland service and explains that she chose space as the most distant point from herself. Taeyo realizes that during this time, Jong-in has grown accustomed to the personality of his AI version and decides to leave. However, she catches up to him and hugs him, proving that she still loves him. She then calls Harry and asks her to cancel her subscription, telling her that her boyfriend has already returned to normal life, and she no longer needs his double. At the same time, Bei Li has to restart, and she begins her virtual life anew. She arrives at the airport once again, where Sungjun is already waiting for her. Their brief conversation reveals that, despite the reset, Bei Li understands that her life is not real, but she heads off to the same virtual desert with optimism. In the epilogue, Hyun-soo meets with his mother and decides to introduce her to Young-sik. As he expected, they recognize each other, and his mother apologizes to Young-sik for leaving him many years ago without saying goodbye. However, the man holds no grudge and suggests resuming their communication. Hyun-soo realizes that he has finally found his father, albeit in such a strange way. Would you choose to continue your life in a virtual world, or bring your departed loved ones back into it? Or is it better to embrace reality and avoid getting lost in fantasies? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.